Done this before.
Hey,
Hey, I've
live.
done this before. There it is. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Cubist. My name is Bill Corey. I am the Cubist. Sorry for the slow start. As you may notice, the background where I am sitting probably looks and sounds pretty strange because I have on backup system number 2 in order to get the show up and running at all. So, but here we are. So we are here. I have Mr. Patrick Hillier with us. Hi, Patrick. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Excellent. I am well. So we are going to kick things off here, and we're going to start with our usual segment of a game something we played recently. I'm going to make Patrick go first so I can troubleshoot in the background. So I love all of you. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Patrick, tell us about a game you played lately, and I am listening. So
Great.
I promise I'm not ignoring you.
I haven't done a burn it in a while, so I'm going to start with a lead. Bury the lead, or whatever they say.
Got it.
Action Cats. Wow! Look at this game.
Yeah, it's the internet in a box.
Yeah. So we went to Black Friday with my wife, and she said, "Can I get this?" And I said, "Sure," because my wife so rarely goes to the game store with me and says, "Can I buy a game?" So this is Cards Against Humanity meets cats. So you have a card with a cat, with cute cat on it. Oh, isn't that cat cute? And you have a card with an action and something weird on it on the back. And you have 4 of those, and you have to come up with some cute phrase. Like the person who's not playing picks the name of this cute cat, and everybody else comes up with a funny phrase, and you vote on it. So it's apples to apples or Cards Against Humanity with cats. And that's about all I can say about it. So, and they patented Cubist phrase. This can burn. This can burn in hell. We've played it about 3 times.
Wow.
And yeah, I'm done with it.
So I have an honest question, and this is going to sound trollier.
Uh-oh, you just turned it off.
Yeah, I muted myself. I'm still trying to figure out where the hell I'm going to put all this stuff, since, as you can tell, everything is aligned weird. So sorry, I'm playing with things. So I have an honest to God question. At what point is the marketplace going to decide that apples to apples clones have played it out, right? Like when will we have gotten to the point where we can stop just saying, yeah, but this one's different because we're writing poetry, or this one's different because we're using dirty words, or this one's different because everything is themed around cats.
Yep.
I want.
You keep going muting.
Connection because I'm moving stuff around. I want to not hate this idea, right? Because I think the engine is solid. Like, there's good bones behind it. There's a reason Apples to Apples was successful, Cards Against Humanity, whatever. But there's no, like, I don't know. It's tired. It's like zombie games and trading in the Mediterranean. We have beaten this horse into the ground 6 ways from Sunday. So I can't imagine a game coming out that I'm going to like at this point that is that mechanic, because it's the same thing we've been doing for 15 years now, more than that, 20 years.
Right. Yeah. I've never liked any of them. I mean, I don't like Snake Oil. I don't like Apples to Apples. I don't like Cards Against Humanity. You don't like social games that force social behavior aren't your wheelhouse. Like you naturally make them, but you don't want games that are trying to tell you how to be funny. Yeah. But I mean, that's the thing. I mean, these games require people who aren't into that, making up stories, right? There were people who couldn't even come up with a name of a cat playing this game. They couldn't. So the game.
How can you not make up the name of a cat?
Like, I'm just telling you, there were people at the table.
I know. I believe you.
Uncomfortable with coming up with a funny name of a cat.
Got it.
A story to be judged.
Got it. Okay. I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to heckle. I was saying I'm confused. Like it wasn't that they couldn't. It's that they were like, this is stupid.
Oh, no, they were just that I don't know. I mean, that was their thing. I'm like, what am I supposed to do here? I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah.
What is the game? And then there's the judging thing. It's just like, it's so arbitrary, right?
Yeah. And I think my gut feeling is that games like this get printed because one group played it, play tested the hell out of it, thought it was the funniest thing ever, kept making it funnier for themselves, and said, cool, let's print this. And if you don't expose more people to your game, you don't know whether things suck or not. You know what I mean? Like if you think you can, it's like the ugly baby syndrome. Or like every parent thinks their baby is adorable, but until you show that picture of the baby to 50 people, you don't know whether your kid's really adorable or if it's just because you love this baby because you brought it into the world, right?
Yes.
It's the same sort of thing. I think that is my theory on how these games actually get printed. Yep. So I'm excited for a burn it. I think I am starting to think, Patrick, that we should actually burn a game for our 100th episode. Well, our episode 100 is coming up. It's only 3 weeks out.
Really? I don't. What number are we then?
We're at 97 today. This is number 97. So we're gonna hit. You know what? Hang on. It'll be the Christmas week episode. So our Christmas present to ourselves and the channel could be a video of us physically burning Action Cats. Would you be willing?
No, because it's my wife, so I can't do that.
Well,
but
just ask her.
If I didn't need it, I just got a new computer set up here.
Yeah.
If I didn't need it, someone gifted me a second copy of Spy. What's the game?
Spyfall?
Yeah, Spyfall, which I hated the first one. So I have a second copy in shrink, and it's
no. See, we
raising
need
my monitor. So
that's
until I can get something about that size, I would be happy to burn the second.
No. We're not getting Spyfall is a fine game that you don't like.
But I don't need to.
That's true. That's true.
I can't get rid of it.
We could give one away.
I know. It just went under $10. I found the perfect use for my first Martians.
There you go.
It
really under $10?
It just went down to like $10.
Oh my God. It's not that bad of a game.
It's not very good though.
It's not a great game, but it's
all
not.
Right, here we go.
It's $10. All right, so here we go. That's fine. All right.
Oh, we got some great things coming in for.
Okay, so here is the deal. We're going to come back. Chat room, keep going on these bingo ideas. We'll explain it later in the episode. All right, for those of you that are not on Twitter or whatever, we'll explain what the hell we're talking about. If you see people posting like the drinking games stuff or things like that, just bear in mind there's a reason they're happening, and we'll talk about it later. Okay. So anyway, I want to talk about a game as well, and we are trying to get our other host Brandon on here, and we're having connection issues. As you can tell, everything has been kind of strange today. I think he's got to do a full reboot, so it might take him another minute. So I'm going to talk about a game I played recently. I played for the very first time yesterday, called Twilight Imperium 4th Edition. You may have heard of it. It's a little game that's been out for a little while. This is, of course, the 4th edition of the space epic, I think is the best term to use for it. You can't call it a 4X because it's not. But what it is it is a truly epic game about controlling warring space empires trying to take over things. Hello, there's Brandon Kemp. Hi, Brandon. How are you? He can't tell we're talking to him, or he's
still booting up.
Oh, he's still booting up. That's fine. We'll get there in a minute. Anyway, so we played Twilight Imperium 4th Edition. We played a 4-player game. It took us, I think we actually started playing by the time because we had somebody that had to bail at the last minute. So the game was set up for 5. We had to reset it up for 4 and then teach. It was a first game for everybody. Okay. Including me, the person that was teaching. And the situation was that I was teaching the game, having watched a really excellent learn to play video by a YouTube channel I'd never heard of before I looked for this, called RTFM. I'd never heard of these guys before, but they are very funny and very informative, well-structured, well-scripted. Think sort of like a not British Shut Up and Sit Down that's actually trying to teach you mechanics versus review games. And you'll get a basic idea of where their head's at. They're aiming for a little bit of light satire while they're teaching you the game. They're really good. Check it out. If you want to learn how to play Twilight 4th, that's a really good place to start. But having said that, we probably actually started taking official game terms at about noon, and we finished up about 9 p.m. So we played for about 9 hours yesterday.
Wow.
And it was one of the fastest epic games I have ever played, meaning that it did not feel slow while we were playing. There were a couple moments that dragged when particularly tense things were happening, but in general, when I've talked about the Colonists on the show before, one of the things that I said I thought made the Colonists a very strong game was that it was basically a bunch of microtransactions. Nothing took a long time to do. Everything was small little bursts of gameplay. So there wasn't a ton of real downtime. And TI4 feels that way. I was astonished. We played a game that is twice as long as the average Eclipse game I play, and it felt the same. And I was super skeptical about this. And I am not going to go into in mechanical detail on tonight's show. I am not going to go into TI4 versus Eclipse, because there's going to be a Cubist Unscripted later this week about that, probably while I'm on the road. Because I'm going to have some downtime in my hotel. So there will be, keep an eye out for a Cubist Unscripted, where I'm literally going to do a side-by-side of the two games and talk about what I think the differences are. But I will say this, I think TI4 deserves every bit of the hype, and it challenged a lot of my opinions about what I thought a good, truly epic game would be. And I was kind of blown away. Now, having said that, I am still only going to give it a play it, because it takes 9 hours to play your first 4-player game of this. And we didn't even fill the table. I don't think this is a buy it. I cannot in good conscience say that, because I think that very rarely is you spending $150 MSRP going to be a good ROI on this game, right? Like, you're going to get this game to the table a couple times a year, unless you know you are the sort of person that'll do it more. So, like, if you know that your group is down to clown for a huge game day of playing a single game once a month, then yeah, absolutely go buy this. But you will be in the very, very minority, I suspect, amongst gamers in general, would be my guess. So I'm going to give it the strongest play it I know how to give it, because I don't think buy it is a responsible thing to say about a $150 box. But it's real flipping good.
Cool.
Real good. So Brandon,
that was just I'm sorry, I missed the beginning. That was your first TI experience, right? TI.
No, I played TI1 when it first came out at Gen Con. The year it released, I played the very first version of the game. And I will talk about in when I do the TI4 versus Eclipse game, I'll talk about what I think about the idea of 4 editions of this game and whatever, because I have some pretty strong opinions on that as well. But I would just like to say that as an Eclipse fanboy, I am giving TI4 the highest, most glowing praise I know how to give it as a first impression.
Nice.
And okay, so chat room real fast. Down to Clown is new. It's not Down the Clown. That would be even creepier. Matt wants to know, do you need to play it once a month to justify? That's up to you. I'm saying that for $150, I don't want to buy a game that I'm going to play once a year. Right? Like, that is a lot of money to spend on a box that is maybe going to come off your shelf once a year if you are an average gamer. But no, I would absolutely play it once a month as well. I am one of those vocal minority people that would be very happy if we played that once a month. I think that'd be great. But I think the average person that might be watching the Cubist now or in the future is not that person. So I can't say buy it, because that makes it sound like I think everybody should own it, and everybody shouldn't own it. Right? So that's where I'm headed there. Brandon Kemp, are you well, sir? How are you?
I'm okay. How are you?
I'm just mostly making sure you can actually hear the words that I'm saying, because I don't think you've spoken since you got here. So quiet. It's all good. So, all right. So yeah. And Tom, I think that when you watch the Unscripted about TI4 versus Eclipse, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it in future. Like, we're going to talk about it in that show, about what I mean about it versus which game is better. I think there's room for both. Spoilers, I think both of them can be on your shelf, and that's completely, I don't think that they are, it's not a toggle switch. But we'll talk about that later. So, but the main topic for tonight, speaking of Eclipse, we named the show the Eclipse Conundrum because I wanted to challenge my own biases about why we cling to games that we might be proven aren't perfect. Right. And sort of transitively, like, why do some games sort of get a pass even when we have all generally acknowledged that maybe they've been done better? And during the day, over the span of this afternoon, we discussed a little bit in the Slack, and we kind of kicked a couple ideas back and forth. And I know that I don't normally talk about that sort of stuff. Like, we don't talk about a pre-show stuff very often, but in this case, I think it's good because I want to start with Brandon, who gave 2 great examples of genres of games that he does not feel like the progenitors of. One, he feels like the progenitors of have not improved on, and one he feels like they have.
Why are we always going to start with me?
Because you say the really interesting things first.
No, I don't. We were just kind of talking about basically the classics and why we cling to them, even though you know, in theory, games are supposed to be getting better and more innovative and more more endearing to us in as we grow more smarter, right? And game design grows smarter. But we look at a genre such as deck building, and we have all of these games that have come since
Clones-ish.
Yeah, since Dominion, that everybody's like, this is the new Dominion. This is better than Dominion ever was. This is, if you like Dominion, you're going to love this. Well, nothing really surpasses Dominion as far as pure deck building, how everything seamlessly kind of works together, right?
Well, I mean,
all we've done
really
with
I think there's a conversation to be had there, but yeah, I get your point.
I think all we've done with deck building now is we're just kind of mashing it up with other things. We're throwing in a board, we're throwing in other things that you got to do to build your deck, but we're not really talking deck building.
Okay. I mean, I would argue that there are sort of two paths behind, like deck building sort of branched immediately upon release with Ascension, because it introduced the idea of a random pool from which you are buying from.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think that is different enough from Dominion that I feel like that is a separate path. Like the mechanic of deck building, they kind of came out 1 and 2, and there's no doubt that Dominion was first, but it feels like they are different enough. And I don't think Ascension is better or worse than Dominion. I think that they are different enough to feel like different games to me. Because one is a pure efficiency engine.
Well, yeah, one's good, one's not. But
shots fired.
Yeah, I just don't. And so this was kind of leading to something like worker placement. So we look back and we see these Kalis games, and we still hold that old grumpy dude up to such high regards, right? You know, frowny Euro dude needs food
Badly,
but. Really, worker placement is one, though, that's just gotten better, I think. I think games
for the most part
since have been better. I mean, starting with Agricola right after it, so on and so forth. We just kind of progressed what we can do with worker placement, but yet we still hold on to that grumpy old Euro dude. Why do we do that?
Yeah, and what gives it the designation that makes it worth holding on to, right? Like, yeah. I mean, is the specific part of that I'm sorry, go ahead.
Because I don't have to feed any people. I don't have to mess with cards.
So it does things that other games that are supposedly good you don't like.
It doesn't do the things. I'm a simplest person. I like no thanks. I like get ready to drink. I like El Grande. I like games that don't have all this layers of crap on it. I agree with you. I mean, I put Clank over here because I like it, but Dominion's just deck building, right?
Yeah.
You know,
it is the purest form of the genre.
I like the purest form of genres.
And sometimes I do, and sometimes I think that they are 80%, and then the next game comes along and finishes the job, right?
Yeah.
Like to me, I would rather play Feast for Odin than Agricola. And I know that that's heresy in some circles, and there's a lot of people that don't like Feast for Odin, and even I admit that there's probably too much stuff in the box. But to me, it does more of the stuff I wanted there to be more of in Agricola, and less of the stuff I didn't want in Agricola. So, I mean, I would argue that there is an evolution there, but I would agree with Brandon that I don't think there has been a successful evolution of deck building as actual deck building versus making deck building the engine that runs another game. So like Clank is deck building that runs a board game, right? A dungeon crawl,
right?
Is all it is. It's a dungeon crawl with a deck building engine. You know, and you could Eminent Domain is Glory to Rome with a deck building engine, right? Like, I mean, that's really what it is. In a way, it's very Glory to Rome-ish.
Yeah, I haven't played enough of it to know.
Right, but I mean, I guess that's my point. Is that Dominion works because sometimes you just want to build a deck, right? You don't want to do all the other crap, so it still does. Agricola, nobody says to themselves, I don't think anybody ever sits down and says, I really feel like playing a worker placement game. Which one should I grab? Right? Like, does anybody do that? Honestly, chat room. Do you legitimately ever sit down when you are thinking about what game you want to play and say, I feel like playing worker placement versus playing auction versus playing whatever?
Well, I do.
Do you really?
Yeah. Do I want to play this? Do I want to play Dudes on the Map? Do I want to play? Yeah, I always think about that. Whatever.
You think about the mechanic first before the actual game?
Yes,
Really?
most of the time I do.
Wow.
Yeah,
I so don't.
I'm not a theme person. I never have been.
Okay.
It doesn't matter the game. I look at mechanisms more than I look at theme.
Okay.
And so, yeah, there are days when I would rather sit there and I'm thinking, oh, yeah, I feel like an auction game today. Or I feel like a worker placement game today. But no, I don't want that stupid action selection thing going on. So, yeah. But I'm also the guy with too many games, so I have to make these kind of choices.
Okay,
So,
and that's fair. Patrick, how about you? Because I want to say something on this, but I don't want to forget to come to you on this.
I'm trying to.
Do you ever say I want to play this mechanic?
Well, I mean, there's co-op, but even the co-ops are broken up into mechanics. So no.
Yeah, co-op isn't a mechanic. Co-op is a style, right? I would argue.
Yeah, so no.
Or mechanism. Shit, sorry. I don't want to start getting shouted at. They're mechanisms, damn it.
No, I don't. I don't think I do. I think I'm more of the style.
And the way that I view games, and this is going to sound super hippy dippy, like I should go put some shoes on and buy some Birkenstocks or something, is that I view the box and the game in the box as an experience. And the way that I play the game is going to deliver this kind of an experience. I love the mechanics, and those mechanics I may know in the back of my head will provoke a specific type of experience, which is why that will be the game that I will grab. But I have never once that I am aware of looked at my shelves and say, I really feel like playing some good dice drafting. Which one do I want to peel off of this here shelf? You know, do I want Dragon's Gate College? Do I want Pulsar 2849? Do I want La Granja? You know, which thing? I've never once done that. And I think that's just because of how we view games, whether they are mechanics in a box or whether they are an experience in a box. And that's interesting. And I don't think either one is right or wrong. I just think it's fascinating. And I think maybe that plays into this classics thing, right? Because mechanisms, I'm trying, Brandon, I really am. I'm trying to train myself to say mechanisms instead of mechanics. I just want you to know that I'm making an effort. All right? That's all I'm saying.
It's just a silly thing.
I know, but
I'm down with it.
You've yelled at me about before.
Yeah, it's a silly thing, but I'm down with it.
All right, that's cool. So
I don't pull a box of mechanics off my shelf.
You don't pull a box of mechanisms off your shelf either. You pull a game off your shelf.
I do pull a box of mechanisms. That's what games are.
Okay, I suppose. Fine. Anyway, but to me, the games that get this treatment, the El Grandes and the Eclipses and the whatever, right? And Eclipse in my case, El Grande and Patrick's. Ginkgopolis is a great example in Brandon's, right? That's your favorite
game for the list. There we go.
Is Ginkgopolis one or
for the bingo square?
For the record, put Modern Art on there too, because he brings that one up almost as often.
You're right.
Or just Knizia in general. You should probably just put Knizia on there. Anyway, we'll come back to this. I'm sorry,
Knizia should be like center square at this point.
Yeah,
but Jack, go ahead.
All right. So, but I think the reason that we each have one of these games, and I'm going to propose a theory, and you can devil's advocate or support it. I'm curious to hear what you think, but I want you to give your reasons whether you're supporting or going against. Okay, I'm going to kind of my proposal is this: we come back to those games that we love so very much because at some point when we played them, we had a really amazing experience or a number of really amazing experiences. And we know that if we play that box again, we stand a good chance of re-experiencing that again. And I know that sounds super hippie, but I think that's the core truth of why we have favorite games. Thoughts?
Yeah, and we're drawn to things that are familiar to us, right? And rather than take that step off the edge and try something new, a lot of us will just sit there and play the same old thing. Right. I'm not saying that's me. I'm just throwing that out.
No. And I mean,
hyperbolically.
And now we're treading into cult of the new, right? Versus that whole thing. Because there are definitely some people that all they want to do is learn games.
Well, I mean, it doesn't even have to be new. It could be an old game that they've never played before, sure. Right?
That happened to me today, actually.
So we're just drawn to the new. And by the way, Carcassonne is still my favorite game of all time. Ginkgopolis is up there.
Oh, Carcass. Yeah,
but
you're
right. Is the game. So
yeah, I got it. Okay, sorry, my bad. That was my incorrectness.
That's okay.
All right.
What are they? I mean, tile laying. So
yeah. Gotcha. All right. So Patrick, how about you? Is El Grande your favorite game?
Or I don't really have a favorite, but it's up there. I mean,
Okay.
I usually toss between Glory to Rome, which I'll write on the list here, and um, and El Grande is kind of my top two.
Okay. For the
But they're
record,
two different things, right? You know,
Yeah.
one's multi-use cards, one's arid folks on a map.
Sure. Folks on a map. I like that. That's for those of you that don't read the live chat when you watch this in the future. That's him poking at the chat room that was challenging the term "dudes on a map," which is sort of the colloquialism for when you put a bunch of warrior guys out there.
Yeah.
I want to throw and I think what part of what you are saying here. Well, let me see if I can translate into my own brain. My favorite game is Eclipse. However, every time I sit down at a table, I do not immediately start with, "Can we play Eclipse today?" No? Okay. How about what's the next thing? Like your game choosing algorithm that is formed in my brain is not a list 1 through X where I start at number 1 and just start ticking boxes until I find one that fits the criteria of the day, right?
Yes.
Like that's not how I pick games anyway. I would be willing to bet that somewhere out there in the internet land, there is a person that literally does that thing. Do I feel like playing my number 1 game?
Sure.
Do I feel like, I bet you there are people that do that because the urge to stats everything in our hobby is very high, and that would be a really good way to do it. But I don't think that's a thing that most of us are doing. I don't know. Is it chat? If you're not doing that, that's fine. Don't say anything. But if you are that person I just described, please tell me so I can make fun of you a little bit more near the end of the show.
Well, that was like Chris brought up the H index. I mean, I know people that worry about. I don't know how serious he was. The people that worry about increasing their H index and play games based on.
Wait, help me. H index.
It's just a way to value your collection, right? To make sure you're getting value out of your collection.
I think you've said it on the show before, but to get the rest of us up to speed, H index again is what?
Your H index is what? How many games you can count down till you get up to, like I've played 18 games 18 times.
Right.
That's my H index.
Okay.
So, you're trying to bring that average up, that H index up.
So, like theoretically, a better H index would be being able to say I played 25 games 25 times.
Games 25 times, yes.
Yes.
Okay, got it. All right. That's interesting. I do not think I would ever want to do that because I don't like keeping stats. So, but that's just me because that's not a thing that I enjoy, which is weird because I enjoy thinking about the games I played in the past. I just don't care about counting them, but that's a whole different story for a different day.
Yeah.
All right. So let's dive back into the nostalgia side of this specifically. And actually, you know what? I don't want to scroll past. I want to make sure that we didn't miss anything hard. The chat room, by the way, is really excited about sales that are going on various websites that sell board games. So I'm just going to throw that out there. If you're watching live, but not reading the chat,
But nothing on sale replaces what you already have. Just so just come back.
Yeah, I mean, so far I've been going along while we've been doing this, and I've added like virtual expansion.
Selling a CSI cart during the show. Great.
All right. So has Frank Sinatra Azul replaced regular Azul?
No, it doesn't for me.
Okay.
For me, or for him?
That was at my store already.
Yeah, it should be. Yeah, it hit last week. Into last week, it hit.
All right.
Okay. For me, I am not going to buy both games because I don't own either. And if I bought one, it will be Stained Glass of Sintra. Because I'm trying to train myself to not say Sinatra because I really want to say that every single time too. So I'm forcing myself. I can't help it. Somebody's put it in my brain real early in my learning curve on that game, and I can't get rid of it now. If I was only going to buy one, I would buy that one because I enjoyed it more. And that's not necessarily because it is a quote unquote better game. It's just the style that I liked better than the other one. I played both of them on the same day, right, Brandon? Yeah, we played both of them the same day. Yeah. And I definitely enjoyed, even though I had played Azul before and knew more about what I was doing, I enjoyed my Sintra experience more. And I could talk about that. I'm starting to think we might have to do one of these deathmatch style shows where we pit two games against each other and discuss why they're different at some point, sort of like Dice Tower Showdown back in the day. But
wow,
we'll see. We might have to bring back that idea as a once in a while episode just because I think it would be fun, but that's not relevant today. Okay, so real fast. Why still El Grande? Because there are folks on a map games and area control games and whatever that are certainly prettier, probably more mechanically sound and refined after 20 years of development, right? So why still El Grande?
I just think it's just a pure simple game.
Okay.
I mean,
And I think that's going to be the big thing for a lot of these and why we go back to them, because they're simplified. They're usually more streamlined. They're usually more, dare we say, elegant in how things are meshed together, right? And how they
Right.
work.
Okay.
right. And then after repeated plays, the groups that I play with are experienced and know the game and know how to manipulate it.
Yep.
To get, and it's a game you can get better at.
That's a really interesting point that I think we should be hitting on more here about the familiarity of old games.
Right.
You cannot be good. You cannot physically. I don't care. I do not care how smart you are, how genius you are. You may be able to find a winning path in a game in your first play, but you are not inherently good at that game after your first play.
Right.
Full stop. I know that there are people that play with people that feel like that is not true, right? Like I know that, isn't it Chris Ray's sister, whoever it was, that's like a freaking genius or some nonsense like that? And she's
we've all got those games that instantly click for us.
Right.
And I don't think what you're saying is true. I think there are games that people can be good at right off the bat. You can see the clear path and you can know what to do and know when to do it.
Okay. Maybe
it's not the norm.
Okay. So I guess a better way to say that, instead of saying you cannot ever be good at a game the first time you play it, is saying that most games require a learning curve, and you should not be expect to be good at them in your first play.
Exactly.
And most gamers will have at most one or two games that do have that click moment for them where they just suddenly get it and everybody at the table is still struggling.
And maybe we should thumb our noses at the ones that people do get right off the bat.
That's actually a really valid point. Hang on. Let's dig back into that. Go say more about what you mean. I don't want to speak on your behalf, but I think I'm about to.
I mean, generally when this happens, it's something comes clear to that player, or there's some kind of clear path to victory, or there's some clear strategy that should be implemented in it. And at that point, the game's just kind of one track.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a game where
I can give you one.
Go
ahead.
The Fister game, and everyone complains about the book track or whatever game it is.
Mabasa.
Yeah, that kind of thing, where it's like, I haven't played it, so I can't say, but everyone complains about the same thing. It's like,
or Feast for Odin with the whole emigration, where you flip the boats over and you put them up on your table, so then you have to feed less and you get a bunch of points. That is very often new players will find that and they'll just spam that, and they'll very often win their first game. And their impression as they leave the table is, well, that was amazing. And therefore that's a really easy way to win the game. And I've had players that have said, I hate this game because look how well I did without knowing what I was doing.
And for the game to really be good, there has to be a way to combat that, right?
Right.
And
Feast for Odin, for the record, does have a way to combat that.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
It's just, if nobody actively recognizes that it's happening, it is a path of low resistance that is easy to accidentally come across, if that makes sense, right? Like you don't have to go find that one is one that has a light shining on it when you open the box. You're like, oh, look, here's a really easy way to get a crap ton of points. Let's do that. So, Patrick,
what?
I'm just yelling at you on Ben's behalf because he was in the chat and he's yelling at you too. All right. So a game that we hold on to that is theoretically better, we have not been playing the better one. This is the point I was trying to get to. I don't think, like, let's say we'll talk about El Grande versus what is a newer game that you feel like is something like El Grande? Patrick, as the El Grande fan in the group.
I know. But is something like it?
Yeah, something similar to it.
Blood Rage is just a modern.
I just haven't played it. I haven't played any of the new ones, so they just don't interest me.
You haven't played Blood Rage or
no. I played Chaos in the Old World ages ago, and it just didn't interest me.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to think of. Something similar that I couldn't.
Okay.
Fine. I like Cyclades, which is a modern kind of dudes on the map, or Kemet. But they're different. They're Cyclades adds an auction, which adds a different mechanism to it and makes it a different game and discourages player interaction, and you can't share spaces, so it's a different area of control game. Kemet encourages battles
Yeah.
and
Yep.
more aggressive play,
Mhm.
and is less nuanced, I think. It's just more just get in there and just mess with the other guy, and then kind of retreat and build up again, and then get back in and fight some more.
Yep.
I just think there's a lot more subtlety in El Grande, and
Okay.
you draw this card and you study the map, and you're like, oh, if I move this guy there and move that guy there, and I'm gonna, and
Yep.
you really can mess with people in subtle ways. So
Okay.
that subtlety is what I like.
I agree. And I think that one of the things that I think happens is that when we quote unquote improve on a mechanic, oftentimes we do that. And then Brandon said this earlier by adding stuff, right? So like, this is this great, simple idea. And now we've just added some more stuff to make it cooler. Look how much cooler this is. It's the thing that Caverna tried to do to Agricola, right? It's basically Agricola, but look, there's more. And look, now there's 2 kinds of things. So you have to carve out caves and do fields. And look, we have 9 kinds of animals, literally, instead of only 3, and we've got this and gems and adventures, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it is not necessarily improving on the game. It is just adding to the game, and that is a fundamental difference that I think we don't always acknowledge. You are allowed to enjoy the game that added stuff to it more. That's fine. You didn't necessarily, however, make the game better. That's different, and I think sometimes we lose track of that really easily. We have 2 guys covering our face with epic beards.
He's just telling me to move my camera because I didn't realize
got it.
The image I'm seeing isn't the same as the image up there.
Got it. Okay, so I want to come back. I want to circle back to something that Ben said in the chat a few minutes ago. He said, "Well, once you get comfortable enough with the game's mechanisms, I think any game can become that." I'm assuming you were referring to, Ben, what I was talking about if you have enough time, you can get good at a game, right? Like if the game is new, you don't have time. And I think that's an argument for these old classics, right? And like you mentioned it yourself, Patrick, everybody's played El Grande a million times. You've got people that really know what the hell they're doing. That's going to be a much better game than teaching a game to 4 noobs, right? Because you just crack the thing and punch the pieces and you're like, woo, this is amazing. You're going to get a better game experience out of that. Sometimes those classic games will do that. So, all right. And I'm going to pull this back to Brandon because he hates it when I shine the spotlight on him. Carcassonne is your number 1 game.
Yeah.
You are a stat machine. How many times have you played Carcassonne?
Allow me to check the
Can we safely say more than 100?
Magic 8 Ball. Counting online, yeah, easily.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's the game, right?
Yep. I don't normally count online games, but
okay, so even don't count that. Whatever you would count.
Oh my gosh, here, face to face on the table. We are approaching 55 plays.
Okay.
How many of those are the catapult?
None. I have not gotten the catapult yet.
Damn it. I'll send it to you after I get it back from Jake. Well, I'll have Jake just send it to you.
Okay.
He still has it.
And it's the old art, right? So I got to keep, I've still got my old copy.
Yeah.
It's big box. So yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, we digress.
This is a sidebar that I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole because I think it could be an entirely another conversation, and I don't want to detract from where we're headed. But I think that now I want to hear about your online plays because I think the best thing that online plays do is get you better at strategies. I don't think that you don't play them necessarily for the social aspect of the game. You're playing them purely for the mechanisms of the game itself, right? And getting better at strategies and things.
You can probably say that. I play them to pass the time.
Sure, that too. But I'm saying what they excel at, not necessarily why you're doing it.
Yeah. I rarely think about strategy when I play online games. That's why nobody plays online games with me anymore. So,
because you suck. All right, never mind. That's fine. Do you have to get good? Is that what that is? Anyway,
good.
How many online plays do you have?
Oh yeah, it's over 100 probably. If I wanted to go look on what is that?
Okay,
Board Game Arena. Is that where it's at?
Sure.
I don't remember where it's at.
It might be.
And then you got the Steam app. So
okay, so here's what I'm going to ask. When you play this with Carenza and the kids or whatever, all right, when you play this with people that you've been playing this game with for years, does it feel different than when you are playing it with 3 randos on BGA?
Yeah, it does.
And what does what is that difference? Can you put words to it?
We're more jerks to each other at the table.
That's what I like.
Yeah.
Because you are good at the game, right? Would you argue that that's why?
I would argue that's part of it, and also just being more comfortable with each other and being jerks to each other.
Okay.
And the fact that we can play it with 2 expansions in like 20 minutes with 3 or 4 players.
Sure. So now, if you is there a new game, let's say within the last 2 or 3 years, that you think is a good analog mechanically to Carcassonne? Because I was thinking Isle of Skye was the first one that popped into my head.
Yeah, I like Isle of Skye. We don't play it nearly as much because we hate that pricing mechanism a little bit. Well, I don't hate it. Other people in the game group hate it.
Sure.
But yeah, there are other games that are more pure. I mean, there's even a new one that came out just recently called Small Islands, which doesn't add anything really to it. It's just more, it adds resource management a little bit, resource gathering to it. Okay. But it is just a pure tile laying game where you're trying to gather resources from the tiles that you've placed. So, I really don't think there have been any that have done it just a pure tile laying game better. You can argue Ginkopolis is right up there, but then that's got 50 other things going on.
Yeah, that's definitely not a pure tile laying game, sir.
So
you'd be hard pressed to sell anybody on that argument.
And I love Carson City, but then again, I got worker placement, I've got tile laying, I've got all sorts of other things. I've got role selection. I don't know.
I still don't know if
how about
Alhambra?
Alhambra.
So that's got hand management. That's really a hand management game, right?
Yeah. I'm not saying that I liked Small Islands compared to Carcassonne. I'm just saying it was like a relatively recent one that tried to do it without throwing a bunch of extra frills on it.
So the reason that I was asking you this question, the point that I was trying to drill down to is the idea that you have played Carcassonne so much that you have this level of proficiency that you are probably never going to find with any other tile laying game. Because at the end of the day, when you want a game where you are going to play at a high level, you're going to play a game you played 200 times. You're not going to be like, you know what? I freaking dominated at Isle of Skye 3 weeks ago in my third play. I'm definitely down to join a tournament, right? Like, that's not how that goes. You know what I mean?
Well, let's before we start blowing smoke, I don't play at a high proficiency of any game.
No. So. For the record, I'm reasonably sure that us hosts and the chat room were already well aware of that. We knew where your benchmark was, buddy. We're good. Don't worry about it.
Okay, good. I just didn't want you to blow smoke anywhere.
None of us in this show claim to actually be skilled gamers. Like, literally, none of the three of us have ever once.
I'm just a game collector. I don't actually play any of these games.
I know, right?
I mean, I do have like a 44% win percentage at Carc. So there you go.
That's pretty good, man. Especially if you don't always. If you always play
stats,
2-player,
you would know it.
Because the only way
it's not all 2-player.
Huh?
It's not all 2-player.
Okay, good. Because if it was all 2-player, suddenly you suck. I just want to point that out because that's how numbers work. I'm gonna like I jokingly say I'm good at games when I do something awesome in the middle of a game, but in general, I don't think any of the three of us consider ourselves to be like pro level gamers at anything, right? Like, we know games. Like, if I say, okay, this is a worker placement role selection game, you have already drilled some mental shortcuts into your brain, right, to help you understand some stuff that's about to happen. But we aren't like super double pro at anything we play. I don't know. Patrick, are you a pro? Are you on the Glory to Rome Pro Tour?
No, I was just typing in the chat though. I won a nuclear war tournament against some kids.
Oh, well, that's fair. Sure. And, every once in a while, your team just totally dominates at Wits and Wagers, right? But that doesn't mean that you're suddenly a Wits and Wagers expert.
It is.
It helps when I'm on a team.
It is fun when you're playing a game like Carcassonne, though, and you're playing it with like relatively new people to sit there and say, "Oh, I know what tile's left, and I need that tile." Right?
Oh, you tile counters.
It's always fun to do that to people, and that's a little something with experience. But
I have actually proposed a variant in the game where you burn one tile out of the bag before you start the game, just one, so that way at least there's a 50-50 at the end of the game that tile counters don't actually know what the last tile is.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that would change the game in some really interesting ways. That is a whole nother ball game.
It is.
As a matter of fact, we are going to schedule a roundtable like this about house rules very soon, because I think that's an entirely wonderful conversation that we should have. But you guys know, absolutely. That's why it'll be fun. You both hate them. I love them, and I think it'll be great. And
I have to house rule it, and then I shouldn't be playing your game.
Why?
All right, we'll have that conversation.
Right, we'll have that conversation at some point. Okay, but I guess the point that we were trying to drill down to before we went down our 27 rabbit holes here is that the point was a game that you have had and have been able to play more, you are going to be better at, and therefore you are going to, well, or at least you will not have to go through the learning curve all that often, right? Like even if you have always sucked at the game, at least you know how to play, right? So you're not going to be like, oh, I don't know what to do with this thing, you know.
What the heck am I supposed to do? Here's something. Has anything? Let's talk action point.
Sure.
Games.
I hate them with a fiery passion.
So to call is probably held up as my classic of that genre, right? When you think action points, you think those 10 points you got to spend to go through there and find the pyramids and uncover them. Has anything else really done action point better?
I don't know, but I just want to point out that I already knew I hated action point games, and I already knew I hated Tikal, and I never understood why. And now I've just unlocked the secrets.
All of the co-ops, right? You're talking about
Pandemic, Pandemic,
Flashpoint.
That's a good point.
Kind of the standard.
And I don't hate those.
Well, those really action point.
You get so many points, and particularly
how many times,
and you can do so many actions with them, right? Per turn.
Yeah. And really, even like Brass is an action point game when you really get down to it, right? Because when you spend a card out of your hand in Brass, you're using it to take an action. You can spend 2 a turn, right? It's just what kind of action points do you have in your hand? Like, and so if you abstract it out to that length, then any card game can almost be an action point game, which is not what you meant. And I get that. I'm not trying to go down that hole. I'm pointing out that there is bleed over in a lot of ways when you start looking at things really esoteric.
But also with action point, there's the antithesis, of why we go back to the classics. Tikal is not streamlined, and it's not.
It's also not fun, but that's a whole different thing.
It's not elegant in my mind. It's just really well done.
Thomas, real fast before you leave, best of luck with everything, man. I know you've had a rough run lately. We are thinking about you, and we wish you all the best, brother. Be good.
I hope your son's second neck is gone.
Yeah, no kidding. Holy crap. So, all right. Yeah. So where were you headed with the action point thing? Because
I'm just saying that,
has anybody made it better?
Yeah. Has anybody made it better? And then we always, what are the things we talked about, why we go back to El Grande versus going to Blood Rage? It's because of the simplicity and because of the seeming, the strategy being they're all in you. It's not all in these random card things that you're doing.
So I'm going to argue.
Tikal is the antithesis of that.
Right. So I'm going to first off pick on you a little bit here by saying that I don't think that action point games in and of themselves are enough of a mechanism to be held up to the same stick as the other stuff we're talking about here.
Oh, they can, because Tikal is a classic, and I want to call it a classic.
Yeah. No, and that's fine. I'm okay with that. I'm not saying that Tikal doesn't belong in this conversation. I'm saying that action points aren't the metric that gets it there. Because I think that action points aren't in my opinion, they are not a mechanism. They are just how many turns do I get to take every time it comes around the table. They're literally just a modifier to turn order, right? And that to me, that feels different. I don't know why, but that doesn't City of Iron from Red Raven Games theoretically has action points, but everybody spends 1 action point and then everybody spends a second one and then everybody spends a third one. He even calls them action points, but really what the game is saying is go around the table 3 times before the round ends. Mm-hmm. It's the same damn thing, but technically it's action points. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't know that I would put that in the same category. But as Andrew Smith very correctly and only mildly unkindly pointed out in the chat room 2 weeks ago, we're getting a little pedantic here on that, and I apologize for doing that. That is 100%.
Hey, I want to talk about something interesting. You just talked about turns. Have you guys played Everdale yet?
Everdale, yeah.
I thought it was an interesting difference, and maybe there's other games that have done it, and I just haven't played them yet. But I thought the whole seasons things and the fact that your turns don't end, that was probably the most interesting thing about that game.
It confused us at first, and then you were like, oh well, we just keep playing, and you've passed basically,
right?
And then you're on to the next season, right?
Yeah. But you just keep playing. Yeah.
Yeah,
and
you just keep going.
I'm in spring and I'm in summer and you're still in spring, and I've got my next batch of guys and you haven't. And does it make sense for me to pass because I'm not going to get my guys? If there's some strategy into that I didn't quite figure it out yet. So I just thought that was kind of interesting. And then I could make a twig and berries joke. But
have you guys have you played the Manhattan Project?
No.
First one? Okay. Have you played Sulkin though, right?
Yeah.
With you.
With me. Okay. So I'm interrupting and asking this because those have this kind of thing where the game is going to go X number of turns. Both of those games sort of do, but the number of times, the way the rhythm in which people are taking actions is not uniform, right? Like in Sulkin, you might be pulling your guys off of wheels this turn in order to take actions, whereas I'm putting them on this turn because I recalled them in a previous turn. So it feels like an asynchronous rhythm to the game. And I think that's like almost a whole weird tiny subgenre of games, right? Which is that sort of like what you're describing in Everdell? Because I've never played Everdell. I'm trying to find a common link here.
Everyone's following the same linear path. It's just when you just jump to the next thing happens.
Okay.
At a different time, but you all are following the same path, and you all end up at the same point at the end.
Okay. Fair enough.
So it's a little different than that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just instead of just passing and being skipped like in like spring or summer, you're just going to be skipped at the end until everybody's done.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. I was just curious because I'm, like I said, trying to find middle ground. So like Chad in the chat, I put Manhattan over at Sulkin. First off, you're crazy. You're an insane person. There's no way that Manhattan Project is a better game, but it is a good game. And it is the first game with the off rhythm. It's the first game of the asynchronous rhythm games that I'm talking about there. I would argue, I think it's the first one that I can recall where the rhythm of the game is dictated by the players and not the rules. I just think Sulkin did it better, but that's just me. So I think that this is interesting though. Like, does anybody looking at Manhattan Project and calling it a classic? Anybody? Like in the history of ever has even like, I mean, and I'm not even trying to be a dick here. I mean, I guess a little bit, but is James Matthew sitting at home at Minion Games HQ going, you know what? Manhattan Project is a damn classic. We brought something real to life. I mean, maybe. Do I think so? Probably not. Nothing against James, but I don't think he's looking at that going, wow, I really killed it here, you know? So I guess what I'm trying to say is older and the progenitor of a mechanism is not necessarily make it better, right? Because there are exceptions that make the game better. And for the record, everything I'm saying is making the assumption that Manhattan and Sulkin are comparable games and whatever. That's fine. I know you could, Ben. He's a local boy. I've talked to him many times myself. So we called this game we called this episode the Eclipse Conundrum because I wanted to poke at myself here during the inevitable. And I promised I wasn't going to go in on Eclipse versus TI4 when we were playing yesterday. But what TI4 did, because everybody else in the world tries to compare these two games, is made me reconsider why I love Eclipse so much and how pissed I was about to be at myself for having backed it for $208 and having not gotten an update on Kickstarter in about a month. You know, so like, you know, how angry am I that I that I did this? And the answer, what I found was I was not, but I was also doing some mental gymnastics to say that. I think that there is a place for both of them, but I am not willing. I am no longer willing, and I'm putting this on YouTube for everyone to hear. I do not think that Eclipse is the best designed game I have ever played. All right. I don't think anybody that plays Eclipse could argue that with a super straight face. It has some really profound issues. Hopefully second edition will fix some of them, but first edition Eclipse has some damn issues. You can tell because if you go to the forums on BGG, there are literally hundreds of threads of people geek raging about those issues over and over because nobody ever searches the forums to find out if the thing they're pissed about is already there. They just make a new thread. So like there's literally 100 threads on the BGG forums about how broken plasma missiles are in first edition Eclipse, and 100 threads where people are tiredly defending plasma missiles or whatever. So it's clearly not a perfect game because a lot of people are having bad experiences with it. But so why is it my favorite? I don't know. Like I legitimately can't put words to it. What I can tell you, and this is what I'm calling back to what I said earlier. What I can tell you is that every time I played Eclipse, I have had at least a decent experience. The only I have played it once where I didn't have a really great experience, and that was only because I overcommitted at BGG Con and I tried to teach a bunch of people and play a full game with a full table and all the expansions and all that. I way overextended myself, and it was a stupid idea.
Well, it's one of the things we haven't touched on yet, but I brought up in the pre-show chatter was nostalgia. I mean, there's a strong bit of that in games that I play. That was my segment on.
Yeah, we can tell you have nuclear war and nuclear escalation and nuclear proliferation sitting up there.
Yes, and I play those strictly out of nostalgia. That game is awful. My wife hates it.
It's not a good game.
It's not a good game.
It's fun, but only because of nostalgia and the fact that it's hard to not ironically black humored giggle at blowing up 5 million people with your
little old ladies on their scooters.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, and we Chris Kirkman and I talked about Talisman, which is a horrible game. And Glenn Flattery did an excellent reaming of
Steve Jackson and Glob Lobbers.
Yeah, of
Steve
Jackson games on the shuffle today.
Yeah.
Can I share a dirty secret with everybody right now? The first board game I ever bought on Steam was Talisman.
Yeah.
I will be damned if I'm going to spend money on that box.
Yes.
For $10 to be able to randomly flip cards and roll dice and move my stupid troll around and teach him spells and shit is great.
It's fun. That's my whole point. That was my whole point of saying get the app. Because if you've played it, it's kind of fun to play as a Steam thing. It's not a great board game.
It is an objectively bad board game.
Yes, it's an objectively bad board game. It's not a fun game to play with other human beings. Just to sit
no, he's not wrong.
Just to sit on Steam and just to flip cards and roll dice while you're watching TV. It's not that bad. It's kind of silly fun.
People had fun ages ago playing this with people.
But you know why they had fun ages ago playing this with people? Because the other 1,400 games that were released at S in 2018 didn't exist yet.
Yes.
We literally hadn't figured out how to invent better games. And we got
in
there.
1985, right?
You know what?
We have
Palm
Pilots. Star Wars. I had Nuclear War. I had
D&D and BattleTech.
D&D. Yeah. This is one we didn't have anyone willing to GM a game of D&D.
Yeah.
And that's what we played.
Look, here's all I'm going to say. I loved my Palm Pilot. Okay. I loved that thing. I loved the little stylus. I loved the fact that I had a digital calendar, but there is no chance in hell that I am ever going to give away my iPhone XX Max so that way I can go back to my Palm Pilot, because I definitely still remember those menus, right? There is such thing as fundamental upgrades, and Talisman has been fundamentally upgraded in about 427 different ways, right? Like there's no good reason to play Talisman in 2018. Except for nostalgia,
right?
Which is fine. I'm talking all of this has the hanging cloud of caveat of for hardcore gamers. All right, like I get it. There's going to be people that don't want to learn how to play games that are going to have fun with that.
I was trying to go other games.
Munchkin.
Yeah, Munchkin's one.
Munchkin's a great example of this. It's not a good game. But
are they all Steve Jackson games?
Yeah, I'm probably.
Think of another old game that's
not Steve Jackson.
No, Talisman isn't Steve Jackson.
No, I know. I was just trying to think of something else.
Another old game, Nuclear War. You're sitting right in front of one.
Ogre. Yeah, that's Flying Buffalo. Ogre is Steve Jackson.
The new version of Ogre actually was okay. The stupid box the size of a small child was actually not bad.
All right. How about the restoration game stuff? I mean,
Fireball Island. That's a really timely one to talk about. Anybody in the chat actually played Fireball Island?
Yeah. I'm really curious to know about everyone's been. There's like a billion pictures of everyone all excited about it.
Yeah, I'm really
excited. Hey, look at all these great pictures. It just came out, and then no one's like, "Oh, that was a lot of fun." I haven't seen those pictures.
Is the game fun, Chad? Is it fun as a game? Not as I get to roll a marble down the thing and see if it knocks some crap over, but the game, is it fun?
It doesn't need to be more than that.
No, but it does. But then we can't call it a good game. We can call it a fun gaming experience, but it's not a good game. Or maybe it is. I don't know. I haven't played it. Like Stop Thief is a great nostalgia game. They made the new version of it, right? Speaking of restoration. The original game itself was not good. It was a decent deduction puzzle, but a crap game wrapped around it because it was a frickin' rolling move, right? Having to rely on a lucky die roll to be able to get to the place when you've already figured out the puzzle, while meanwhile your mouth-breathing cousin next door has no idea what the difference between the two steps noise and the door opens noise means. And he's like, I don't know, is it here? And he happened to be closer, so he wins. That's used to happen in Stop Thief all the time. By the way, I apologize to all the mouth-breathing cousins out there in the world. But my point is, you could lose Stop Thief through literally no fault of your own, just because. Yeah. Didn't make it a good game. Right. Okay, so here, Chad, it's not amazing, but it's not for us, it's for muggles. Right. But that's my point. Is it a good game, or is it a good mass market game? Because there's a difference, right? I don't know. Maybe there isn't a difference. Maybe I'm coming at this from my grumple zone. Who knows? So I don't know. I guess what the reason that I wanted to have this conversation, why I'm so grateful that we did, okay, is because I think from a point of critical thinking, it's good to sometimes look at your own biases and wonder why they're there, right? Like modern art, I'm going to pick on modern art for a second. Drink.
Oh, is that on the list?
No, okay. It isn't yet, but it should be.
It is. I was on the list.
It is now. All right, there you go. I'm going to pick on modern art by saying part of the reason I don't like modern art is because it's mathematically solvable near the end game. So it gets boring. I think that once people start to figure out once everybody at the table knows how the math works, unless you have an irrational bidder that just wants to do stupid shit because it's funny, the game crawls until everybody does the math. I don't like Chinatown for the same reason. Does the exact same thing. You can math out the best thing and refuse to make deals that don't make mathematical sense, and the game breaks. Right? I don't fault people for liking those games. I'm saying that's why I don't like them. There's no doubt that modern art is a classic. No doubt. And I would shout at anyone that tried to say otherwise. But I think it has been improved upon. I think there are other auction games that are better. I'm not just trolling you. I'm curious for what you think of what the things I'm saying besides just head clutching, Brandon. Do you still love me?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Yeah, it's a math puzzle. That's all it is.
Right. Okay.
But it's a fantastic math puzzle that is very group dependent.
Right. But once everybody solves it, is it still a fantastic math puzzle, or do you just have to go through the motions until the game's over?
Most of the time, you're not going to solve it.
Really?
Yep.
Maybe I just accidentally found one of those games that I'm the guy who clicked for and nobody else did. That's possible, because I always feel like that math puzzle is super obvious.
The math puzzle is there from the get-go, and it just compounds, right?
Yeah, I guess my point is I find it easy to solve in all the games I've played of it. But again, maybe I am that guy. I don't know.
Don't know either.
But I guess what I'm trying to say, and the reason, and this is why it is the spiritual, somewhat pedantic, Andrew, shush you, somewhat pedantic spiritual successor to the first episode, is because I think that it is good to challenge your own opinions on things and examine why you have that opinion, right? You don't necessarily have to change your opinion. You just occasionally should look back at things that you have judged to be true and reevaluate them when new information comes to light. This is, by the way, just straight up life advice, right? I'm just putting it into gamer terms here. You know what I mean? Like, I used to really like Talisman in 1989 too, because it was fun. I got to be a troll and occasionally get turned into a toad and cast hex spells at people and go fight the stupid guardian jerk if I couldn't cut down a rat from the forest. I remember all this crap. Still a terrible game, but like in 1989, I thought it was amazing. Now I look back and I'm like, holy crap, what was I doing? We spent 4 hours doing this shit. Are you kidding me? Right. Like, I remember setting this up on my living room floor because no one in our group had a table big enough to set the game up on. So we would literally move all the crap so we could set up the 4 boards next to each other, because of course you have to play with all the expansions. We definitely did that, and we thought that was great. Now I look back and then I'm like, oh my God, what was wrong with my life? Like, was I really that sad of a child that this was the best way I could figure out how to spend 4 hours? And the answer was probably, but that's not the point of the episode. It's, you know what I mean?
Yes.
I don't know. Chinatown works if your group breaks the math for you. Our group barters non-in-game things. Right. See, okay, so here's a great example. That's almost a house rule. See, Chad even house rules games. He adds things that aren't part of the game to the game. That's a house rule, right? Isn't that what that is? Like if you say, I'll give you this property if you do the dishes for the next 3 days, is that a house rule? Now I'm curious because I feel like I missed an opportunity in TI4 if that was the sort of deals I should have been making. I don't know. This has been fun for me. I recognize that this kind of stuff is pedantic, but I think that we could just review games every week for the next 100 episodes. We're always going to have time to do that, right? Like we're always going to be playing new stuff, or at least new to us stuff. Like I played Dungeon Fighter for the first time today. That game is definitely not new, but boy, do I have thoughts, and I am absolutely going to play that again. Have you played Dungeon Fighter, Patrick?
No.
You know it's Mondrian in a dungeon, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I did not know that until today. And I was like, wait, what? This is friggin' Mondrian. I bought this damn game because of Patrick. Right? So anyway, I am always curious to hear chat room. If you have future thoughts on this particular topic, I definitely want to hear them. I just realized something, you guys. It's the first Monday of the month.
Oh, goodness.
So,
I'm not ready for it.
Yeah, none of us are ready for it. So, chat room, we're going to push it back till next week. We're going to push back After Dark till next week because none of us realized it was the first Monday of the month, and life has been chaos in many directions for a lot of us. Plus, it's a convention weekend, and Kimberly and Eric are still hungover from PAX U, and Brandon After Dark kills Brandon's schedule. So we won't.
Brandon's hungover from just drinking,
from not following the 61 rule. Stupid, terrible.
Drinking? What the hell is going on here?
All right, couple quick things that I wanted to talk about. Brandon, we got mentioned in a Reddit thread. Can you tell the story?
You did.
Fast?
Well, the
Cubist did.
Yeah.
We did.
The hunky guys of podcasting, I think.
Literally nobody said
that's what it was.
Ever will.
It was the best beards in the business and that one guy who doesn't have one.
Yeah, and then also Patrick. No, we showed up on a list. Can you help me with this? Because I only was able to read it the one time, and I literally am on my third computer and can't open the window right now because I'm afraid I'll break the show.
Hold on.
I'll see if I can find it. You go ahead and talk about it.
Well, I'm hoping Brandon will help explain it to me because I barely.
It was just somebody on Reddit who decided to chime in and talk about some of the things that he's podcasts and YouTube shows that he enjoys, right?
Okay.
And the Cubist got mentioned, and I forgot the gentleman's name. I don't have Reddit open. I can do that thing with the computer that does the magic stuff.
One of the things that he said, if I remember correctly, and I'm hoping one of you will look this up so you can correct me in case I misspeak, because I don't want to, or maybe even paste the link into the chat if you can bring it up. I'm sorry I can't, guys. I'm literally hamstrung down to a laptop sitting on a desk here just to keep the show going. One of the things that I remember him saying specifically is that he liked the discussion, but he felt like we were a community that was not trying to grow. We were more focused on the community we already had versus growing the community. And I thought that was an interesting observation. I don't think that it is accurate, at least not from the desires, but it might be accurate from the actions. And I guess what I'm trying to say is if I am not doing a good job of trying to reach new humans for the show, that's on me. But I very much want there to be, not because I give a crap about views or subscriber counts or any of that stuff, but because I like hearing new voices and I like hearing new opinions, and I want to hear more people in the chat that are talking about things. He enjoyed when the group talked about burning games. Oh, he's our burn it scale. There you go. I like it. Maybe we should reach out to the guy and be like, look, watch episode 100. There's a very real chance we're going to set something on fire. But anyway, I wanted to point that out specifically because I wanted to say to the chat room that we absolutely love you guys. You guys are, in my humble opinion, the best part of this show for me, because I love that not only am I chatting with my friends, Brandon and Patrick and Kimberly and Eric, and whoever guests we get or whatever, but I also have a bunch of smart people in the chat that are discussing things, bringing up other topics, weighing in, giving us ideas, constantly feeding the machine and helping make this a cool interactive thing that makes me wish I had thought of doing a Google Hangout live stream thing years ago. And I'm glad that you are here. Having said that, I would love for there to be more of you. So I am going to attempt to ask for your help, chat room and lovely viewers. Help spread the word. I know that every YouTube channel and podcast says that sort of thing, and I promise this is not about views. We're probably never going to monetize this channel. The Patreon and Pod Pledge that I do is as far as I'm concerned, and whatever merch we don't sell because we haven't sold merch in forever. It's just also fine. I'm not guilt tripping anybody. I don't care. Please don't go buy merch today. It's not the point. None of that is here for us to make money. None of us on this show expect to ever actually make a dime. Well, the only reason we keep those open is because it helps offset the cost of the hosting and stuff, right? Like, because we have to sometimes ship games, even though I know I'm the worst and I never do that. So if you agree and you think that more voices in the chat is a good idea and whatever, help spread the word. Tell people. If you are one of the people that sees it on Twitter, retweet it. Tell your friends, whatever. We just want to talk to more people because we think it's fun. That's thing number one. Thing number two. We are a proud member of Punchboard Media, where we all bring something. There you go. You know, I just want to say that Punchboard's going to disown us, okay? Because we're now almost making fun of the tagline, and they all hate us. They probably don't really hate us, but I just
hey, the boss is on the show. I think we can get it.
That's fair. That's a good point. That's a good point. So that's the second thing. The third thing is we are coming up on episode 100, ladies and gentlemen. This is episode 97. Episode 100 will be on Christmas Eve or New Year's Eve, and it won't be on New Year's Eve. Hot tip. And it might not even be on Christmas Eve because it's Christmas Eve, and I don't know that I'm going to get any of these hooligans to want to sit down here.
My wife.
So here's what I want to know. Chat room, I am not kidding at all when I say this. I want you to tell me via the Cubist podcast at gmail.com. Okay. Seriously, please, the Cubist podcast at gmail.com, and tell me if you would watch this at its regular time on Christmas Eve. Because if you will, even if these guys can't, I will cook up something stupid for episode 100 and I'll just be an idiot online for an hour. And if you want to watch,
if you're going to feed us and cook something, I'll make it.
I will order pizza in the local hometown of every host of this show and have it delivered promptly at 9 p.m. so we can all have pizza together if you want. If that'll get you on the show, I'm done.
Nope. You don't want to see Corinza behind me with something ready to hit me when they,
Wait. Have you met me? Of course I want to see Corinza.
Well, you may want to see that. I don't want to feel it.
That's fair.
She'll just collapse everything on top of me is what'll happen.
Okay. So for the record, for those of you keeping score at home, again, please in the email. I know that you are responding in the chat room, ladies and gentlemen, and I really appreciate that. But please put it in the email so I can actually compile the stuff because I can't bring up this chat later. And I'm on a third computer, right? Like I'm literally on my backup. So I don't have a way to deal with this right now. So the Cubist podcast at gmail.com. I apologize for the extra work, but it really would help. If we get a decent number of people, maybe I'll do an episode 99.5 and I'll just do an AMA or something. Or maybe we'll do a 100 if the hosts can. We'll talk about it. Last thing, when we actually do episode 100, Patrick, I'm going to spoil it because I already spoiled it in the promo tweets because I didn't know you wanted to wait. But now we're going to spoil it. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Right. Patrick is a self-deprecating heathen and is actually making Cubist bingo cards. So he is making legitimate bingo cards for the Cubist for all of you that in the chat have been picking on me and picking on Patrick and picking on Brandon about all the things that we always talk about. Like there was a Twitter thread a couple days ago picking on me about how I always say that there are too many games coming out and then I grump at somebody and all that non-stop nonsense. Okay. So whatever, we're going to do bingo cards and they're going to be true randomized bingo cards. And we are not going to game the system. And we are not going to use the content to try and aim to make sure that bingo spaces get filled. Okay. We will try and double check it at the end of the show or whatever. But so here is the thing. These are coming. Get ready because we're legit going to do this in 2019. I want to release these by episode 100 if we can do that. So if you have suggestions for things you think should be on the Cubist bingo cards, also put them in your emails to the Cubist podcast at gmail.com. Patrick's been taking dutiful notes all night, I suspect.
Yes.
From the chat room. But if you come up with more, your deadline for that, let's say, is next week. By next week's show, have those in. So Patrick has time to collate them and figure out which 24 are the best to put on the cards or whatever. And if we get more than 24, we can put like 30 across, and
it randomizes them. It takes the different phrases and randomizes
so
them.
We'll take as many things as you can get. Try to make them things that are not one-off jokes, right? Like, things that happen once is a bad idea, but things that happen 12 times are great, something like that. So do that stuff. The Cubist podcast at gmail.com. Please let me know, number one, whether Christmas Eve is a good idea for you, and number two, stuff that you would want to see on a Cubist card. All right, let's talk about things and stuff. Brandon, do you have a things and stuff you want to talk about?
Well, we just had the Shuffle release today. It was our 4th issue and probably be my last as the head of. I think we're going to pass the reins to Patrick if he wants to take it.
That's
and
correct.
Has the time.
First off, congratulations, both of you.
I'm kind of doing a soft retirement of sorts from audio. I'm planning on doing it kind of like Mark Johnson from Board Games to Go. I'm just going to talk when I want to talk and post something when I want to post something.
Sure.
So that's kind of my plan. I'm not going away. I'm just don't want to be beholden to a schedule. We're got some stuff to do around the house starting next year, kind of get everything ready to sell and all that fun stuff. And then,
well, and you're going to be sort of focusing on written content too,
yeah,
right?
that too. And Disney trip coming up. So we've got our plates full. So
nice. And by the way, small spoiler, I may or may not be working with Brandon on that written stuff we were talking about.
Yes, we are working on a little written site called Cardboard Critics.
See, I wasn't going to go any farther than that. You go, boy. All right, no, give her help.
Cardboard Critics, where we're kind of going to try to give a little more critical look at games instead of being such yes people. How about that?
Sure. And I'm going to be a part of this as well. Maybe everybody accuses me of being such a curmudgeon. Maybe I can get some of the curmudgeon out of my system over there, and then I'll come in here all sunshine and roses and crap by the time I get. No, probably not. I'm not good at sunshine and roses. So anyway.
Yeah. No, it'll be fun. It's not solely just to be. There's going to be some happy stuff posted there too. I have a feeling. So, Chris is going to join us and a couple others, I think. So,
I am really looking forward to this, and there are a lot of topics that I have been kicking around in the back of my head that I think are going to work real well with this. So, yeah. Thank you for both including me and for doing this, because I think that's awesome. Yeah. I think that
we'll see what happens. It's kind of a change for me. I don't know. We'll see.
Here's what I think, and I want to, and we can talk about this more on the value of negative reviews. We've sort of talked about it in a previous show.
Yeah,
it isn't necessarily going to be negative. It's just going to be critical.
We're going to, the very first one that I kind of did in this vein was my Central review, which was overall positive, but it kind of gave a critical look at a couple of things that are in the game that annoy me and might annoy other people. So I'm not going to gloss over that kind of stuff if I see it, even games I like.
Yep. And I think that's one of the things that I've been sort of thinking about when leading up to this episode tonight is I want to challenge my own biases in that regard too. Like I'm thinking about writing an Eclipse one and acknowledging all the warts, right? Because it's got warts. It's not a perfect game. And I probably better than most folks in board game media anyway, know those warts because I seem to be the main loudest proponent of the damn game as far as media talking heads on the internet go. So, all right. So Patrick, he's totally spoiled your cool thing.
It's okay.
Good job.
Sorry.
It's all right. Way to go, Brandon, you jerk. No, I'm kidding. So Patrick's going to run the shuffle. Yay, Patrick. Good job.
Yeah, that's right. I'm going to kick people off that talk negatively about my games.
Oh, there you go. Anybody that gives anything El Grande or Glory Rome anything less than a glowing.
He's going to be the editor I wanted to be. No,
11 out of 10. There you go.
Sorry, the show is just me now because I couldn't stand anything you all said.
You guys all suck. Nice. No, that'll be cool.
Absolutely love the guests or the contributors we have on the shuffle.
Absolutely.
It's a really good show.
Yeah, I think it's probably important. You've said this to me, Brandon, but it's probably important to say it out loud that it has nothing to do with the show itself.
No, it doesn't.
It's all about other stuff that you got to do on the back end, and that's wonderful. I'm gonna have something similar. I'm traveling this coming weekend. My last work trip I will be home in plenty of time for Monday's show because I'm getting home Sunday night. So it's not like I'll be rushing home to sit in front of a computer. But this is my last work trip of the year. I mean, obviously, but also probably for a little while. I'm guessing that I will not, because I normally find out about these things a few months ahead of time. So this will be the last sort of stress moment for me, which will be wonderful.
Yeah.
But I'm really glad that you are here, fellow co-hosts. I'm really glad that you are here, chat room. I know we went a little long. I'm sorry that we are pushing back after dark. We just didn't know we were going to. Basically, this has been chaos.
To be honest, I thought of it today, but I didn't mention it.
Yeah, I totally spaced it. I have been so between work and planning. I had 2 game days. I played Gloomhaven on Saturday and TI4 on Sunday. So my weekend's been real full. And then, all the other stuff that life throws at you. It's just been a lot.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us tonight. I really appreciate your patience. Sorry for the tech glitches at the beginning of the show. This is what happens when you literally have 3 computers that all take a dump on you simultaneously, and you have to go to plan D in order to be able to do the show. But I appreciate your patience. Thanks for hanging in there. Thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for completely ignoring the show and talking about Arkham Horror living card game, you jerks. I'm 100% kidding. You guys are all amazing people. I wish you all the best. Have a great game day. Wow.
Have a great game day.
Can't even need my own tagline anymore. This is the worst. Have a great week of gaming is what I meant to say. And we will see you all next week. Be good. Have a good one. See ya.
Bye.